So how does the media portray God? Religious socialization in a media age. That is what we are actually here to focus on. And we are at the ELF because we are concerned about the future of Europe. And we are concerned about sharing the gospel with the younger generation especially, but with old and young. And we know that the process of socialization is a lifelong process. And the process of religious socialization is obviously also a lifelong process. But at the same time, those years in childhood and adolescence are vital for the formation of the worldview. So that is why we'll have a focus on what's actually going on in youth culture. How do they develop, and how do the worldview, to be more precise, develop and getting formed. And I have just a very easy way of putting this. Great changes in the forms in which values and ideas are transferred between generations, as well as the content of these values and ideas. There are great changes in both how the values are being shared from one generation to another and the content of those values. It's a Swedish researcher, yes, hello Sweden, Mia, who said that just a couple of months ago. And guess what? Guess what I wanted to do with the Damaris Norway hat on my head? And Damaris Norway works specifically with having the Bible in one hand and culture in the other hand, listening to both and building a bridge. And we have been saying, as we have in the bachelor's program that I am the director for at Gimlekoll, we have said so for ages, that what's going on from one generation to another, thinking of the worldview issue, is to take into consideration that the church and the family, they lose ground to media. Welcome to the club, Mia Lövheim, a researcher in Sweden. No, it sounds awful of me to say so. But I think you would like to say the same. Welcome to the club. Because we work with the young people in our classes, in our churches, and we feel it desperately that this is so hard, because even though we teach the Bible, the Christian worldview thoroughly, they get other voices via the media that compete with us. And honestly, I don't think churches in Europe have taken this responsibility really up front. I don't think so. So even though when we look around in different parts of Europe, we find that the situation is slightly different from country to country, from region to region, within a certain country. More and more of the religious socialization is marked by the messages from the media. So I said, hallelujah, at my desk, in my office, when this report came. Yes, because if the key researchers that don't proclaim a Christian faith realize that we have to listen to what's going on in the media concerning religious socialization, then we can link up with them. You see what I mean? And all of a sudden, even though we have earned a right to speak for ages, because we have been concerned with this for ages, all of a sudden it's easier because it's politically correct to talk along these lines. Well, how many watched the Eurovision Song Contest last Saturday? Did you know that Norway came fourth? Denmark came as the first? But that's not my point. I'm actually quoting the Norwegian participant because she is such a good illustration, and good in inverted commas, I like to say. a very good illustration of what this is all about. She is a vicar's daughter. She enjoys talking about life and death, belief and superstition. And when she came to Malmö, Sweden, in the days before the final, she got so many journalists from other parts of Europe asking her questions about life and death, belief and superstition. And she was astonished because back home in Norway, journalists are not that interested. But this is what she says. Her religion is a mixture of some Christian values combined with Buddhist philosophy and various spiritualities, as for instance, healing. And then she says, at the same time, I wouldn't be wise if I said I'm not a Christian, because that would upset quite a few. We would like to cry, and we are crying, aren't we? Because we have no reason whatsoever to think that she hasn't got a Christian upbringing, being born into a vicar's family. But there has been so many other voices around there via the media. And now she has ended up in a syncretistic worldview, so typical post-modern. And she is one out of many in her generation. She is 28. But just think of those who are in their teens and tweens even now, all over Europe. Because there is a worldview war going on via the media. A pluralism that Europe haven't seen before. In the midst of that, we are here at ELF, and as we were reminded last night, we are on a continent with a growing number of atheists and agnostics, and with a declining number of members in Christian churches. But please, we must never forget that alongside the secularization, there is this pluralism of other worldviews that are religious. Both and. And therefore, please let us never underestimate the media, but try to understand the media. And in the good old days, this was the media. So easy. A pen, a television set with maybe just one, maybe two channels, newspapers that you had actually in your hands, physically, not in your hand via the mobile phone, and the rest. But in those times, also, values of worldview, traces of worldviews were communicated, but not to the extent that we have now. So the medialization of childhood and adolescence, is that how we say it? Sorry, I'm Norwegian, not English, not American. And the medialization of religion and religious expressions have to be faced by us. And what do we mean? Oh, I could have given lots of lectures just out of that particular slide. How young people live their lives with the media, in the media. Actually, many of them find their identity, they think, via the media, as was pointed out so clearly to us last night. I hope you were there. Who do you think you are? And we cry out for the need for helping young people not to mirror themselves in the media, the medialization. I can't go into that now. I can't go into the vast, vast area of how religion is being portrayed in the media, and it's just the bits and pieces of media that fits, of religion that fits the media that comes through, and not what is right and what is wrong. But this says it all. You have all your associations linked up to that slide, and we can move on. This is what it's like to grow up in Europe in 2013. And they get it now. And that also affects the religious socialization. I want something that works now, that gives me what I feel like needing now. And we live in this mediascape, all of us, don't we? We breathe this. But you and I breathe with other nostrils than the younger ones. But when, such as Douglas Rushkoff says that the popular media, the popular culture, the entertainment media is the most pervasive one, he says so because of the worldview issue. So if we relate to that we all live in the mediascape, the young people, they have all these, gadgets, and they sort of live their lives there, and the messages are filled with phrases and worldviews. What do we do? It says that the non-personal socialization from the media plays a vital role in childhood and adolescence. The media communicates rules and values and communicates a lot about how young people ought to live. That is the concern of a lot of teachers, parents, pastors, the general socialization. But if we add the most important, the heart of the matter, the worldview issue, it's even more important. So this is just to illustrate the competition that we are up at. As a teacher, can you compete with Justin Bieber? Well, maybe you can. You have quite a good look. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but but we can't compete with Justin Bieber. And in church, we can't compete with Lady Gaga. Back home, it's hard to compete with the soap operas. Please, don't let us be disencouraged here. The father is still very important. You have 4 sons. Lucky you. And you are still very important to them. And you were even more important when they were very young. And we working in the church, of course, we are important. And the teachers. But if we ignore what's going on in the media realm, we don't meet them where they are. So we should know, when we are in church, we should know what Lady Gaga says about Jesus. Because she says quite a bit about Jesus. We should know what Lady Gaga says about identity. Because she says quite a lot about identity. So, socialization in general and religious socialization in particular, media is the more frequent arena than family and church for encounters with religious ideas and values, especially for young people. Hello, welcome to the club, Mia Lövheim in Sweden. And it's a global issue. It's not just Europe, even though we focus on Europe now. It's global. And this is what they meet. Entertainment media. And these particular artists, films, television soaps, they are nearly the same all over. We talked before we started here about Belarus and Norway, and you said Friends, the soap opera Friends, meant a lot to me when I was growing up in Belarus. And I have talked to lots of Norwegian students who say, if only I had been more focused on what was going on in Friends. I lived with Friends for years. So they want help. We are not going to take away the joy, their entertainment, but we will help them to uncover what's going on and say, yes, this is good, this is not at all good. And then if we add all the social media, we fully understand what it means by a childhood, a youth culture that's been medialized. 2010, that's not that long ago, I gave a speech in Austria with people who work within NKS, IFES, from Portugal in the west to Ukraine in the east, and we made a survey. And what's popping up now are the most popular films, television soaps in all these different countries. in 2010, July. I knew it, and still I didn't. I knew it in theory that this is the case, but it made a huge impact on me to walk along wonderful student workers from all these different countries and share the need and help each other to face reality. And then this March, I went to Peru with my husband, and we taught in theological seminaries and in churches, meeting up with youth workers. And I had just been into a couple of secondary schools in Norway, 14-year-olds, and they were so keen on One Direction. Do you know anything about One Direction? Let's go crazy, crazy, crazy till we see the sun. And pretend it's love and all the rest of it, okay? Let's live while we are young. And coming into Arequipa, Peru, being taken to a shopping center and to the mall, the market. Both in the very Western shopping center and the very South American marketplace. We saw big posters of these wonderful English guys. And when I just gave the first line of this Live While We Are Young to the youth workers, I didn't know anything. And then I turned to the younger ones in church, and they knew it all by heart. Of course they did, because they live in it. Life of Pi, we had just had seminars back home at Gimlekollen on that fabulous film. How many of you have watched the film? If you haven't, please do. It's wonderful, but please make sure that you have all 5 levels there. The emotional one, how do we feel and why do we feel as we feel when we watch a film? The aesthetical one, what is so wonderful here? The camera angles, the lighting, the colors, the artists, wow, don't get me started. The third one, the ethical one, what's right and wrong within this universe? Fourth one, what about the worldviews? Where are these ethical right and wrong rooted? But don't forget the 5th one, the thumb. Evaluating it from the Christian point of view. But guess what? In Peru, they had set up Life of Pi in churches just to attract new people to church. And I said, well, it's a good idea to show that you're interested in quality films, but what to make of it? Are you going to talk about it? Oh, no, no, no. We'll just watch the film and have some coffee and invite them for sermon the day after. I wasn't as outspoken as I am now. I didn't say, what are you thinking of? This is absurd. But I said, why are you doing this? What do you think will take place in their minds? And then it all opened up. And we shared the very, very challenging part of that particular movie. And I don't destroy the plot. I want you to watch it. But the key person here, in the very beginning, he searches for meaning both in Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism. And at the very end of the film, he says, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu. That is such a very, very good illustration of a film that's very popular, very, very good in the way it's made, a powerful story, and it's laid out, well, if it's okay with you, it's okay. Sorry, now it's yours. Says that it's a bit dangerous, isn't it? Because it's laid out as if it's good for you, it's okay. Everything is true in a subjective sense of the word. That is exactly my message. So that's why I challenge these young people coming from the particular church that was to set up Life of Pi. You have to deal with this. You have to talk about this. You have to open up what the Bible says about that there's actually just one way to God. So it's a wonderful way of starting a conversation. And I have used that in very, very many ways to open up for a discussion. But please never end up with just saying, okay, and that is what the film says. That's it. The film points to what's going on in society today, in our postmodern world, where you find your truth and you search in different places. Going to Peru showed me that, yes, what I had experienced in South Africa a year before and in Madagascar 2 years before, it's the same all over. We need media awareness and critique. It's a really forgotten dimension in mission. And in the Cape Town commitment that came out after the Lausanne III conference in Cape Town 2010, they actually says this deliberately. We have to help people develop a more critical awareness of the messages they receive and of the worldview behind them. The media can be neutral and sometimes gospel-friendly. Not neutral as such, but neutral towards the gospel. You see what I mean? But they are also used for pornography, violence, and greed. There is a revival going on. Just as Mia Lövheim in Sweden shows that there's a revival going on in research circles to realize that we have to watch out for what's going on in the media concerning worldviews. There is a revival going on in churches all over the world, the need for media awareness and critique. So we are in the front, aren't we, this group here? Because we know this is important. We know that the atheist author Philip Pullman is right when he says that all stories teach, whether the storyteller intends them to or not. They teach the world we create, the morality we live by, and they teach it much more effectively than moral precepts and instructions. He knows what he's talking about. And he knows what tool he has chosen for his creativity, because he wants to pass on something more than just entertainment. Oscar Innes, we have the privilege of having him here at the ELF. He said a lot of wonderful things, challenging things. And I have quoted him so many times just on this one, because I feel, yes, it concerns me. Do I see it? Or is it like this? I don't see it because I see with it. Have I become molded by this surroundings, the medialization? We don't see it because we see with it. So let us help each other to uncover a bit of what we ought to see of how media portray God. It says God, of course we will deal with spirituality and religion as a whole, but God with capital G. Wouldn't life be easy for us if this is what we met in the popular media? Oh, Frodo, and of course this nativity story that's so close to what Luke tells us. Oh, Narnia, Passion of Christ. That would be easy. But please let us use those stories and be aware of what's going on in these stories. Downton Abbey, such high quality. But why is God still absent from Downton Abbey? And will he always be? The manuscript written by a Catholic, well-known author. But when will God turn up? When will Christianity turn up in a proper? Well, there is a vicar there, but he isn't given many lines. Why is it? You have it on your sheet of paper that it actually says God as absent in a secular media world. And very often it is as if he is totally absent. At least the biblical God is absent. I'm co-leading the media's network, and we are very much concerned about journalists, journalism. And we know that so many journalists have a blind spot when it comes to religion. And people who are here at the ELF have written this book, Blind Spot When Journalists Don't Get Religion. So also when we move out from the particular entertainment media and for a second just face news media and all those different arenas, we see that, okay, God is very often absent. And of course, if we go back into the soap operas, the television series aimed at specifically young people, films and so on, what if you meet a Christian? How is he or she? Any ideas? Are they people with integrity? Are they popular? Do they take a leading role? No. I did research on Dawson's Creek in the 90s. So that's quite some time ago. It was a high quality soap. Nearly completely emptied from religion and set in America? How can that be? But the grandma, she is a Christian, old-fashioned, very strict, not at all relating to what's going on in youth culture. Jen gave a speech. The internet is so up and down, so we won't go into YouTube, but you can go into one of the episodes if you want to and listen to a speech that Jen gives in a funeral, where she, and then God turns up. She attacks God, the God of her Sunday school. She says, what we were taught in Sunday school about God is just a fairy tale, or God is sadistic. Very strong attack on the biblical view of God, the real God. So, 2 examples from one soap. Portrayal of God in Christianity as old-fashioned, detached from reality, and very strict, and life is like that. And what we are taught in Sunday school doesn't correspond with reality, it's just a fairy tale. And then, all of a sudden, in another funeral, Joey and Dawson goes to Joey's mother's grave. She died in cancer. And Dawson tries to comfort Joey, saying, I'm sure she's up there in heaven looking down at you, smiling. What sort of worldview is that? Are we close to the moral, therapeutic, is that how we say it? Deism that is so widespread in youth culture today? There is a God, okay, yes, He's a God, and we can sit on His lap when we need some comfort. We find it in our churches. Os Guinness again, he says that if we dig into the media and have a look at how God and religion, Christian religion, is being portrayed, church is sort of a place where it's hatching and matching and dispatching its citizens. It's sort of a ride in different seasons of life. Whether you need a baptism, or you need to get married, or you need a funeral, the church is there to serve you in the way you want it to. And I go straight back to the Eurovision Song Contest, when all the votes were counted, and the hosting, Sweden was hosting it, and they gave some entertainment, and 2 of them brought us into a church. What happened? So what they really wanted was the tradition, so that they could have a big party back home afterwards. No God, no, yes, it's true. It's ironic and it's very true about the situation in Sweden. That makes me really cry. And it's not far from what's the case in many places in Norway as well. And another, you go into a church again, you're in the middle of the Eurovision Song Contest, mind you. You go into a church again, and there are two men getting married. And of course, we think of the end of the Finnish song as well, ending with two women kissing and getting off to get married. So, church, just hatching, matching, and dispatching. And, well, get rid of, funeral. Sorry, that's a very bad way of saying, yeah. But then in Norway, on July the 22nd in 2011, a disaster took place, and it was on the news all over the world, not just all over Europe. This guy shooting a lot of young politicians on an island. Afterwards, our church was asked, please give us comfort. Give us a glimpse of hope. And how did they do that in such a situation? And it was wall-to-wall coverage in all different medias. The message that came through was the moral, therapeutic, I can't say that word. Please help me. Thank you. Therapeutic, deism. As if everyone goes to heaven and God will comfort and everything will be all right. And of course, the situation was awful. It was not the time to discuss all these vital issues, but still the message, and that's being absorbed by the younger generations in their worldview formation. I skipped that. It was just a dig into the Desperate Housewives, where Gabrielle goes to see the vicar and says, I'm on the pill. How come that I'm pregnant? God is screwing with me. God is screwing with me. And then we are in the next one where it says that God sort of is made in our own image, the fourth one here. She is building a bridge between going to church and let the vicar give exactly what she wants, someone to be angry with, and a bridge to the fourth one here, where it actually says that God is made in our own image. And of course, Gabrielle makes him in his own image. If we then take into considerations that in the entertainment media, especially the films, all these deep questions are being asked and there are pointers to the answers. As Nick Pollard says here, the founder of the Damaris in England, we should spend more time on films because that will help us in understanding what is molding the younger generation. We don't have much time here. That is really too bad. But As It Is in Heaven is a wonderful film, and you have some underpinning traces of worldviews there that makes us really, really want to go out and discuss and guide people. There is no sin. God doesn't forgive because he has never condemned. That is what the vicar's wife says to the vicar when she come back home from a party with the church choir, and they have been dancing and drinking and having a lovely time. And we all want her to think of the fact that so many times Christians have said, no, you can't dance, it's a sin. And we have put the label sin on all sorts of things that aren't sin in itself. But this is not what she is saying. She says that there is no sin whatsoever. There is no God who condemns us. He's all embracing love. And that is an echo of what's going on in the different areas underneath the films, the soaps. So find your own tune is the main message of As It Is in Heaven. And Kai Pollak, who wrote the manuscript, is one of the key leaders in Sweden when it comes to more coaching from a New Age perspective. So he really wanted people to live not while we are young, but while we are here, because there is no afterlife and there is something of spiritual God in here. So find your tune. Life of Pi we already touched at. Oprah Winfrey, she focuses on what a lot of messages say, many paths to God, not just one. She is a goddess of our time. Why is that? Because she is so popular? Because she has, and that's wonderful. A lot of people have stopped in their preparation for taking their own life because she says, you are unique. You are unique. You're born like this. Does that mean that I buy the whole message in I'm born this way? No. But at least we have to make sure that we don't throw everything away. But when she was in Oslo, she prayed like this, up front, on the stage. Dear Jesus Christ, some people say that you just love those with particular views, faith commitments, or sexual orientation. That can't be true. Jesus loves everyone. And I really want to say, yes, Jesus loves everyone. But all of us need forgiveness. Jesus doesn't say, come to me and stay and live the way you want. Come to me, receive forgiveness. Every day we need forgiveness. And then follow me, and I will make you fully human. One of the most popular Norwegian soaps at the moment is called Hotel Caesar. It has been very popular for many years. A lot of followers. One is about to die in cancer. A nun turns up, and this is how the conversation goes. Do you have to believe in God? The sick person says, what do you think this is? God? I've heard a power. I've heard about you from Pelle. Some people have God within them. They are good, warm, precious. It's not that we believe that counts. It's what we do. And what we do is what we are. Is that a real way of portraying what a Catholic would say about God? Not at all, but it's so postmodern. You have lived a wonderful life. It'll be good for you. When you die, no problem. Then if we move to Avatar and those different films and television series and so on with a pantheistic view, oh, they are so popular because they resonate with a longing for really, really peace and to feel that you belong to the universe. Chocolat, neo-paganism, Twilight, ever so popular, and then all of a sudden it's here in our world. We have our own princes dealing with angels, having set up a school of angels. No, that's not right. Angel school sounds very, very strange. But anyway, get in touch with your own angel. That has opened up a lot from younger people especially that, oh yes, maybe that is true. And Channel 5 in Norway is the most popular because they have so many different programs, films, television series and so on dealing with the supernatural. I was in a panel discussion with the director of that particular television series. And he says, no, we don't have any worldview programs in our channel. None. He said, what? The power of the spirits, isn't that a worldview program? No, I never thought of it like that. But it is. And he started out by saying that I am an atheist. By the end of this panel discussion, and we were not discussing his worldview, but he ended up saying, well, Margunn, if you define worldview as something that's impossible not to have, and that we have faith in something, whoever we are, well, yes, I have a worldview, because I think I find trust in what I can understand. And I fully realize that when we have the Power of Spirits, as the most popular program on our channel, it's a worldview program. Well, but we also meet God and Christian religion, Christianity, as being something portrayed as dangerous. The God delusion, we can't be on ELF without getting into Richard Dawkins a bit. And Philip Pullman, he likes Jesus, but Christ is a scoundrel. And actually, also in films, in The Golden Compass, you have this underneath that it's dangerous. If you believe in God, you will get crippled. So please, when you have a look at the outline and you see that the fifth one is God as a dangerous superstition, remember, it's not just the new atheists, but it's also in the popular culture, the media, that young people are exposed to very, very often. What worldviews are shaping? Well, popular modernism, postmodernism, relativism, subjectivism, individualism, and hedonism. That's underpinning most of what we see. Secular humanism, naturalism, also existentialism. I have highlighted what is in your binder. Pantheism, we saw that in Avatar, we saw it in the Chocolat, we see it in different songs. And also alternative monotheism, that we grab God with a capital G, but we create him in our own image as a embracing, all-loving God, creator, that we can sit on his lap. No forgiveness is needed because there is no condemnation. So if we take this with us into the fact that religious socialization is the vital part of identity formation, what then? The media is mirroring and molding at the same time. And I'm not quoting last night's talk. I had prepared this long before. But it was wonderful listening to Harrison dealing with who do you think you are? And he had some of the same pointers as this. Of course he had. And you would have the same. You are what you present yourself as and what others see. You are whom you are with. You are what you live out. You are what you possess. You are what you achieve. You are what you experience. That's the main messages from the popular culture, from the entertainment media. And young people are in the phase in life where they really, really struggle with who they are. And at the same time, the identity question is the core of the worldview. And the other way around, the worldview is the core of how they answer the question, who do you think you are? So worldview and identity linked together. It's a postmodern market of worldviews. It's fragmented, bits and pieces, pick and choose, just as Margaret Berger did, the one who came fourth on behalf of Norway in the Eurovision Song Contest. But it's unstable and it's transient. And that's a good thing for us, because there we find a point of contact. They are on the move. They are searching. They are longing for something stable. And belief has an ad hoc character, for very many. They ask for something that gives them meaning now, but it doesn't mean that they get into a certain lifestyle. That's also an opportunity for us to grab. Because meaning, yes. You lost me. What a title of a book. And it's here because this is not just about all those young people out there that never come to church. It's about Margaret Berger, who grew up in a vicar's home. It's about our youth in our churches, in our youth clubs. They have these voices surrounding them. And You Lost Me with Kinnaman shows very, very depressive figures on how many who grow up in Christian homes leave their Christian faith by the age of 18, 19, when they leave for university. We know that so many become Christian before their 21st birthday who are Christian as grown-ups. That's a well-known fact. But please remember, what the researchers say now is that lower down, tweens or early teenagers are vital. So not to lose them, we have to give them apologetics now. They want everything now. We need to give them apologetics now. Why is Jesus the truth? We want them to mature in Christian faith. We want them to be like Lucy when Aslan, of course Jesus sort of, says to her, yes, you look at me and you find me bigger because you have grown. For every year you grow, I will become bigger for you. That is to mature in the Christian faith. Lucy thought that Aslan had just grown. No, Aslan had grown because she had matured. That is what we want from our younger generation. That is what gives hope for Europe. I don't think we have time to go into the toolbox. But we have this in the world, not of the world. To embrace all that is true, that is good. We have the double listening to the word and to the world. And the world via the media, with all the different traces of worldviews. We have to know how to identify them, to build a bridge. We have to know that when we watch a film, listen to music, watch an episode of a favorite television series, what we see, what's going on, reveals a set of values, reveals a view of humanity, reveals a view of reality, reveals where you can put your trust and find meaning. That is, out of what you see, what you hear, you can find what are the bottom line worldviews here. We should be expert and help the younger people to see what's going on. So you'll have this if you want to. Identify key characteristics of the praxis. Identify the worldview elements. When you have done so, and it's easy, I have made it, it's easy. That came out of my research in the 90s. I used it over and over and over again, and the students like Ole, they can do it when they are asleep. So easy. And you find traces and worldviews when you identify what's going on here. And then you identify points of contact and points of tension. I'd love us to have much more time. We lost 10 minutes before we could get started. But even though you haven't had the courage to interrupt me, sorry about that, but maybe it was good anyhow. If only 2 minutes, how would you find a point of contact in this line from the film As It Is in Heaven? Find your own tune. Identity, religious socialization, young people, where you live. How would you use that? Now, What can we confirm?